All right, here with Tom Decent from the Sydney Morning Herald. Now, people are going to say, Tom, oh, here we go. It's an Aussie, you know, is it going to hold them up high? And we're going to talk about the Aussies, and it's just going to, how are we feeling today? How are we feeling about the Aussie swim team?
Mate, great. What are we looking at? About 6 months till the Olympics. Program's taking shape. Got Doha coming up, which are we excited about? I don't know, not really. But yeah, years coming into shape, and more interested in who wasn't, selected to go to Doha or who didn't want to go to Doha. But overall, pretty good. Everyone going about their business in a different way, and yeah, just trying to elevate those stories as much as possible before Paris, eh?
Yeah. Now, for those that don't know, the Sydney Morning Herald is really regarded as kind of the leader in sports in terms of respected journalism. So you're definitely one of those guys that's in that realm who's very respected in what you do and how you say it. When you are writing specifically about the swimmers, how do you write? Like what are you doing when you're creating an article?
Yeah, look, I mean, I generally do news stories. I don't do opinion pieces. I don't sit there and write loud opinions on things or bag people too much. I tell stories. Like I do interviews, in-depth pieces with swimmers. I go to all the events and meets, and that's my job as well. I dabbled in some broadcast stuff last year at the World Champs in Fukuoka. I was over there doing poolside interviews and also writing as well. So that was pretty mental, doing Ariane Titmus poolside and then running out the back where all the print journalists are as well and writing stuff for newspapers. So it was quite an experience. But yeah, just building rapport with those swimmers. I'm a lover of swimming. I am no expert as well, and I will never pretend to be. So I do like getting voices in those stories of people who know more about swimming and trying to encourage our readers to learn more about these athletes because they are, they're superstars and we all want them to do well ultimately. So yeah, that's our role. Look, I'd love to have a swimming story in the paper every single day. I don't know if coaches would agree with that. And that's an interesting issue, but yeah, just doing our best to tell those stories.
Actually, that is an interesting issue because I come up against that now. I'm kind of seen as media. I really just started out this podcast to tell swimming stories, and it started with kind of historical stories and moved on to very newsworthy kind of stuff, current affair type stuff. But I get pushback now. I got people that don't want to talk to me and tell me they're focused. And do you find the same thing in other sports where an athlete doesn't want to talk until some major event happens? Does that happen in other sports?
Look, not as much as swimming. Athletes, like I run a lot of rugby, I cover the Wallabies, Waratahs, cricket. Those athletes get used to speaking to the media regularly and they don't make all these big events such a big deal. I think so much is made of the Olympics and trying to protect these athletes from the media in the lead up to the games. Traditionally, the Australian swimming team in the 6 weeks before the Olympics won't do much media. They'll try and bunker down and not think about it. So I don't know whether that makes it a bigger deal once you get there to not be used to the media. But then some people take it on, like look at Ariane Titmus. She's great with the media and happy to chat pretty much wherever, whenever, and go out and do their thing. So, I've heard you on previous podcasts speak about trying to elevate swimming and get more people talking about it. Is it a bad thing that people would want to write stories about these swimmers and follow their journey? And it's not the days when you were swimming and when paparazzi was following Thorpe around everywhere where he was going, for sure. It's changed a little bit, but yeah, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it as well, because podcasts are a great medium as well to do that, and it's unfiltered and you can get a bit deeper, whereas the print reporters like myself and poolside interviewers can only get little snippets, and you're getting athletes when they're gassed after a race. So it's not necessarily the best, environment to sit down with a Ariane or Caeleb or Isaac Cooper and dive into their story. So it's always that give and take of trying to get as much access, but also coaches not wanting to let their ego get in the way or have attention around them too much and fly under the radar. But I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it.
No, you're right. Like I've heard that a lot recently from coaches. I want my athlete to fly under the radar. I'm like, what radar? Like we're going to the Olympics. Like we're going to the trials. Like we should be talking about swimming. That's the way I feel now. I think I was a protected athlete back in the day, where it was like, I was in the Don Talbot era, where Don would take the newspapers from your outside your hotel room. You weren't even allowed to touch the newspaper. So he protected us drastically. I think sport and the way that we look at it has changed now. Like in the media, everybody is a media outlet in some respects, right? You can get on Instagram and you can cut up nice videos, you can do stuff. So we're all kind of like competing in that world. And what I've seen a lot of other sports do is they've moved into almost like the entertainment realm, where entertainment is part of the athletics as well, and that's what's really boosted some of these sports that I really enjoy watching. I love American football. I love UFC. I love events where the athletes are kind of hyping up the event beforehand, and then they go and compete, and then they talk about, openly and honestly about it after it's happened, and yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you see the Kelsey brothers right now. Travis Kelsey's probably one of the biggest names in world sports right now, because he's dating Taylor Swift, right? But he's got his own podcast, and he competes on the weekend. He comes back Monday morning and sits there with his brother and analyzes everything and opens up and talks to you about it. Talks about the plays, talks about the media, talks about So yeah, it's just, I think that's what we're up against. And swimming is still kind of in the dark ages, where we're doing this protective. I don't want to be at the forefront of anything until 6 months from now, which is just, to me, it's craziness.
Yeah, and the other thing too as well, athletes, if they want to have a profile after swimming as well, they need to be accessible and happy to talk, and then very marketable as well. Like, I mean, the example that a lot of coaches give is James Magnussen in London and missing out on that gold, and all the talk and the lead up about him and not winning that gold. But James is in the media, and he's I don't know if he would have changed things there, but he's spoken about a lot of swimmers going into their shell before the Olympics and not speaking a lot. In saying that, though, Swimming Australia are doing their best and making some good strides in that, and they do make swimmers available to us, but I think it's more the coaches at this point.
Yeah, the coaches.
But I don't know. I've never been an athlete, so I don't know whether standing on the blocks, you're thinking about that before you get in a race. So it's like, hey, there's this big, like there will be some incredible races in Paris, right? Like, why wouldn't we want to get everybody in Australia pumped up about those races before we get there? Like Ariane Summer, Ledecky Night 1 is going to be the best race, right? It was the same in Fukuoka. Let's write about that 10 times before we get to Paris. So everybody there, as millions of people are locked and loaded, ready to go to watch that and embrace that.
For sure.
That's my view from the media, and I get the other side, but
Now, in terms of where swimming sits now as compared to where it maybe used to be, like you're right, we did have superstars in swimming. Ian Thorpe was a legitimate superstar, and there was probably a couple of tiers that came off him. You had your Grant Hackett's and your Susie O'Neills, people that are still regarded as superstars, but obviously Thorpe was the guy. But do we have swimming superstars these days, and where does swimming sit in kind of the grand arena of sports in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, getting mainstream coverage is trickier than footy codes, and that's just the reality of how it is. Thorpe was one of a kind for sure, but you look at that Australian swimming team now, they're going to go pretty close to trumping what they did in Tokyo, most golds ever by an Aussie team at an Olympics. So look, there are obviously superstars within that team as well. Do they get recognised like Thorpe and Hackett and some of their predecessors on the street like they would? Look, I don't know, but what I will say is they're all excellent people, excellent humans. They're all really good to speak to when you do chat to them. I don't think there is an ego about this Australian team. Look, I don't know whether there has been in years gone by, but I think everyone's been really good to deal with on that front. But yeah, like this Australian swim team, like you go back to Kazan, what did they win? Like one gold medal, individual gold medal at those World Champs in 2015. You go to Fukuoka and they absolutely blitzed it and beat the US on the medal tally. So I'm not sure whether Australian public understand how good this team is. And it would be wonderful to just explain to them how good they are and tell those stories and give all of them a massive profile as well, and not wait till after the games or in the Olympics to try and do that. But as for the superstar thing, like, why can't they be? Ariane Titmus at the moment, if she does, she goes back to back in Paris. That's rarefied air. Kaylee McEwen, if she wins 2 or 3 golds, if she does compete in the IM as well, then that's like all-time stuff. So really Emma McKeon, you know, wherever she's at, apparently tracking very well by all reports. So
Oh no, listen, we definitely got the people, the horses in the stable. You know, we need them to get out there more and talk. And sometimes I wish, you know, you said, oh, they don't have an ego. Sometimes I wish they did have an ego, because like these are the greatest athletes in the world. You know, you stack them up against any other sport. These are the best. Some of the names that you just mentioned, you know, I mean, ridiculous. They're so good at what they do. I mean, they're the best in the world. I wish they did have some ego. I wish they came out and spoke about it more. I wish they showed off what they did and who they were, in the sense of just being like super proud of it, and also, you know, creating some storylines, you know, where people would want to talk about swimming. You know, right now we're all hiding, so no one's really wanted to talk about swimming other than, you know, you and me, who kind of just drumming up some stories because everyone else is kind of in the shadows. So it's like, in terms of Doha, we talk about stories. What's the word coming out of Australian swimming in terms of the team that they're fielding there? Why aren't they at full strength?
Yeah, great question. I had a long chat to Rowan Taylor during the week about this. Look, he's saying that it was basically a selection. Well, it wasn't a selection at all. There was a smaller team that they were going to send, always budgetary means. But yeah, swimmers basically got a chance to do that. I actually probed him on some of the issues around why a full team wasn't sent. Obviously, it's the first time that a long course World Champs has been in the same year as an Olympics. But I listened to your previous podcast around swimmers swimming fast twice in a year.
Yeah.
And he argued that did happen in 2022, where you had Worlds, you had Com Games, Jewel in the Pool, World Short Course. So he says, like, his personal opinion is it can be done. But a lot of the coaches just thought that it was too big a risk going over, and it's that word risk. What does that entail? Obviously, there's good prize money over there for sure. But yeah, he said that they will they'll taper a bit, sort of like a small taper, 5 to 7 days, but they don't want to risk all the work they've been doing. A bit of a personal choice. I asked him whether times or places are better. He just said it's actually the thing he wants to see is progression. You know, faster times, heat, semis, finals. But it does feel a bit underwhelming that they're not all going. Like the high of Fukuoka being poolside and seeing that when I write a story next week and try and pump up some coverage on the World Champs, and everyone goes, where's Titmus? Where's McEwen? Where's Emma? It's like, well, they're not here. So I think it's a good debate to have at the moment around that. It's just, I can understand the apprehension from coaches, but by the same token, as you say, when you want to make it a big deal and a big sport and get the best athletes there, like Rowan's pretty confident that at the top level there'll be some good times and good athletes there, and it will be interesting. But and I mean, storylines, we can talk about those. Cam is the one. Like, there's all the talk that Cam's going to try and go quicker.
That team, hey?
Yeah, so like a really weird, different worlds. But Rowan, I think everyone's just working out the pieces of the puzzle in terms of where they're going to compete before trials, and then also planning for post trials.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. How is it that the mentality of the fastest man in the world, his mentality is, I can swim fast multiple times throughout the year. You know, I'm going to swim fast at the Worlds. I win a world title in February. I'm going to come back. I'm going to win the trials, the Olympics in June, and then I'm going to go out and, you know, my mentality is I want to win the Olympics, you know, a month later or whatever. Like his mentality, the fastest man on earth, his mentality is I can swim fast all the time whenever I want. And yet here we are where we're stuck, like swimming's stuck. And you said it a couple of times. You said in terms of regards to the media, you know, the coaches are apprehensive. You said in regards to competing, the coaches are apprehensive. And this is my whole, you know, my whole thing here with the sprint revolution is like swimming. We need to evolve, right? We need to change the way we think. We need to change the way that we're doing things. And it goes back to a lot of the coaches making these decisions. Here you are talking to the head coach of Australia, and him saying, we've seen it, it's possible, we can do it. You know, some of the best athletes in Australia are saying, we've seen it, we can do it. and then yet the coaches are still holding us back in terms of swimming, media and competition. I think the coaches need to be slapped around a little bit. And I'm prepared to do it, by the way.
Well, you can. You're a swimmer, a coach, and you've got that for sure. But yeah, like as I said, Rowan's view is that they can swim quick. He said anyone who's going to Doha is not going there to make up the numbers or roll through and get some international practice. He's like, they're going to win. We'll try and win and swim fast. Everyone there is not going around for that. Slightly less taper, come back, get back into their work. Look, again, longer distance athletes are more tempted to stay home and train. But again, like, I'm not sure what it was like in your day, Brett, or around some of the superstars of your era, but would media be allowed to come in and watch these sessions and sort of observe swimmers doing their thing, or was it quite like closed door, which...
For sure. You had closed door moments which were extended, and then you would have like a media day where it was kind of all set up and fake a little bit. It was all like the media's coming in today, so we're going to do nothing, or we're going to do something. It was all kind of staged. That was a bit of a shame, and that's where I felt like it was always fake. It was like we're not really showing who we are, what we're doing. It was just some staged event. But Grant Hackett, we talk about one of the greatest distance swimmers in history. Grant Hackett swam at the 2002 Commonwealth Games, I believe. I think it was 2002, and then went on to the Pan Pacs, a month later or whatever, and then swam one of the fastest times in his career, in his life, at the end of a massive campaign. And so we talk about distance swimmers. It can be done. It's been proven that it's done. So it's like, I don't know where swimming is stuck in this mentality that you can't swim fast. Whether you're a sprinter, whether you're a middle distance swimmer or a distance swimmer, you can swim fast whenever you want. And you can even train through things if you want, right? Like, you talk about the training and the mistraining. Like, distance swimmers can go to the competition and still be banging out 10K a workout if they want to be doing that and still compete. But we're going to have a chance to then field our best team. I just don't understand the mentality of swimming. We want to be regarded as one of the world's top sports, but we don't actually put ourselves in that position to be that. And then we complain about the lack of money, the lack of sponsorship. I mean, Australian Swimming, or Swimming Australia, whatever they call themselves now, they don't even have a major sponsor, do they?
Not to my knowledge. They've got sponsors, but I don't believe a major.
Yeah, which is crazy. All right. Like, we're talking about the best swim team in the world right now, coming off last year's Worlds. Number one swim team in the world doesn't have a major sponsor, which to me is ludicrous. It's just, I don't get it. But
I was going to say really quickly on that point, like at the end of 2022, after World Short Course in Melbourne, the swimmers signed a new EBA where it's like effectively a profit share of the sport. So they have a greater involvement in it, and it's in their interest to grow the sport for sure. So it's not just being paid by Swimming Australia and Swim. If they can elevate this sport and get more media attention, more podcasts talking about them, more revenue coming into the sport, they get a slice of that pie. And it's hard being an Olympian and an athlete, money-wise for sure, if you're not one of the big dogs. So I'm curious to see where that evolves in the next sort of 4 to 8 years heading into Brisbane.
Yeah, and this falls back on the swimmers. And again, I was one of these people. We talk about the excitement of the profit share. There's no profit share if there's no profit. You guys understand that, right? Like, you've actually got to go out and make a profit. So part of that is exposing yourself, putting yourself out there, talking. Kyle Chalmers, for instance, does a fantastic job, right? He's constantly out there doing things and putting himself out there. And again, an Olympic champion, and just a great energy and somebody that's really interesting. He's got this this outside stuff where he's a reptile handler and all that. So he's got interests. It's just, he's an interesting dude. So it's like, we need more people like that. We need more stories like that. But yeah, swimmers, it's up to you, coaches. Like, we don't move forward unless we change some things. It's not going to happen by doing the same things over and over again. And again, the reason why I'm saying this is because I personally get messages from coaches to say, no, we don't want to talk. We're holding our cards close to our chest for the next 6 months. I'm like, 6 months? What are you talking about? Stupidity.
Well, like, here's an example. Like, I do a lot of other sports, rugby, cricket, and we go to a press conference and say to a Wallabies coach, like we don't expect them to give away trade secrets on how they're going to beat the All Blacks or whoever they're playing. And I understand where swimming coaches may not want to have their athletes talking and saying how good I'm going awesome, I'm going to win Olympic gold. I can understand that, but there's a handful of coaches who haven't spoken for over a year about their athletes, and they got incredible stables. It's probably no secret there. But the point is, like, even after Fukuoka, the public want to know about these swimmers and updates. And I'm really curious to see where it lands in the future. But I will say, when the swimmers do talk and they do speak after meets and all the rest, they are great to deal with, and they're a bloody good team.
Yeah, I've had some great podcasts, and I hope to have another one with Dean Boxall at the end of the last Olympics. Sat down with me. We sat there for almost 3 hours and just pulled it apart. The whole performance, and I think we've lined it up again. After Paris, we're going to do something similar again. So that's exciting. I do wish I could change Dean. I've tried. I can't. I don't think anybody can, but. The performances that he's putting out are second to none. I just wish we could get more of him, but that's it. It is what it is. But in terms of let's just go back to Doha real quick. We talked about Cam and what he could do and what he represents. Who else is going? Like, tell us something else about this Australian swim team.
Yeah, I mean, the list is okay. I mean, Isaac Cooper is heading over as well. Had a great year last year. Really built on what he did there at Shore Course in Melbourne as well. He's doing the 50s. Really interesting cat is Isaac, very much under the banner that you're professing around less training, better, more specificity, quality over quantity. And he's living that. From all reports, he's going really great. So it's nice to see him go back in the mix and be racing. And Cam's the rock star there in the 50 free at the moment, but Isaac was really thereabouts in Fukuoka too. So I'm really curious to see where he can take that event. Shayna Jack, I think it's great to go over. She's a red hot chance to bring back some medals and some money there from prize money. Cam obviously is the storyline there. Cam Melverton's heading over doing the 4:08 and 4 a.m. at this stage. Jenna Forrest has pulled out late doors. She's going to just come back. Dean wanted her to just be training back at home. Kai Taylor, a great story there in terms of what he did at trials last year, sneaking in for the 200 and winning his first gold medal there in the 4x1 relay in Fukuoka. So he'll be over there competing. And then, the only real distance male we're looking at is Elijah Winnington, who Rowan is really pleased with how he's progressing in a world where, Mac Horton's not around, having retired. So, I don't think Elijah I'd be doing extremely well to get down where Sam Short is, in the 340s at the moment. But, curious to see what sort of times he's posting, and Brad Woodward as well, who's doing all 3 backstroke events. Yeah. They're the main ones. But, as we said, as a reporter who's going to be sitting there, albeit the finals are at 3 a.m. Sydney time, won't be going over for those. But, you would just love to be having a full team there. And even if they're not going to swim fast, their fastest times, it would be so great to see them and get a bit of a taste of it. But we'll have to wait until some meets in Oz, like New South Wales States, Oz Champs, and then trials in June in Brisbane.
Yeah. Dean's going to be there actually, and you said Shayna's a phenomenal swimmer and certainly has chances to win her events. So that's cool that she's going. I don't understand. I don't know. Why is he going? Why is she going? Why some others aren't going of the squad? You would think you'd want your whole squad out there. You think you want them with you and competing. I don't know. Just that part of it doesn't make sense to me. I'd imagine it makes more sense if you say none of us are going, but to say that half are going to go and half aren't, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I spoke to someone close to the camp, and they said that Dean asked athletes it was totally their choice if they wanted to go or not. Okay. So that's why there was a split. Obviously, they've been getting flogged in Thailand over there, and they did that so that the athletes could go straight over to Doha, which is a bit of an easier flight. And that's also something that they've been working on in the background I know they're going to go over to, they brought trials forward fractionally earlier so they can go over to France earlier for a couple of training camps. They felt like in Budapest in 2022, they didn't go over early enough for Worlds and learned some lessons there and didn't go as well as they should. So, yeah, factoring in all that. But, yeah, Dean will be there. It's not a full strength coaching staff, to my knowledge. But, yeah. A bit of a harder sell in the middle of the night and realistically like a 10% team going over with respect to everyone who is going.
Yeah. Well, moving ahead to trials, what's the word on the streets over in Australia? How's everybody feeling about where Australia sits? Coming off Worlds, the last Worlds where they won the gold medal tally, didn't win the overall medal tally, but competed obviously head to head with the top nation in the world, the US, and outdid them on the gold medal side. But in terms of like looking at Australia's strengths and weaknesses, have they felt like they've filled some gaps since then, or have they lost some people, or how are they feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, Rowan and the coaches and the athletes were really, really, really happy with Fukuoka. I think that exceeded expectations, but backing it up in Paris is the main goal. If they can't do that, then it doesn't mean a whole lot for sure. Emergence of Sammy Short, I think, is really interesting. I know he's all guns blazing. There's a lot of hype and excitement about him. He basically in that 400 was nowhere to be seen until he went Oz Champs and did, I think, a 3:42, and then obviously went 2 seconds quicker at Worlds. So high hopes there. The really interesting ones will be who squeezes into the women's 100 free, and obviously the relay team there too. You got a couple of absolute legends in Kate Campbell and Bronte Campbell who are coming back in very different capacities to try and make that team. And there's some red hot athletes ready to go there. Who that top two positions will be, Emma, Molly, or Shayna will miss out. Kate Campbell could come back and be in the mix there. Bronte as well. At times they were improving throughout the World Cups last year. So that's a really interesting facet. The breaststroke for the women, I think, is one that not needs fixing, but that is an area of concern possibly. I know there was some talk of whether or not Caeleb would almost be better suited swimming breaststroke in the medley, which just seems crazy for your best backstroker in the world to be doing that. Which they didn't do in Fukuoka. So, look, elsewhere, men's 4x100, obviously winning that gold a bit unexpectedly at Fukuoka has really just lit the fire amongst some of those boys to keep it there. Cam McEvoy in the 100 will be interesting, whether he, dabbles in that. Obviously, the 50 is his main event. But, I don't know. Do you think Cam would be a shout in the 100? Do you think that's worth exploring, or is there? I don't know. It depends whether he wants to do relays. Ultimately, that's what it would be for.
From what I know, I don't think he's interested at this stage. I think his sole focus is swimming from one end of the pool to the other faster than any human in history. I think that's where his focus is, and that's a good goal to have. Why not? If you can have a shot at that, take it. But I do also think that he loves representing his country. He loves those guys on the team. He wouldn't want to take a spot, from what I gather, from somebody that had earned it, and felt like would do a really good job in that position. But I think there's also that thought of Cam of like, look, I'm fast. I've swum fast hundreds in the past. I know how to do it. I've got more speed than I've ever had. If they need me, I can bang out one. I think that's kind of his idea. If there's a hole, maybe, if it's a strong team, I think he's going to be like, look, leave it. They're good. If there's a perceived hole in there, Cam might be that guy who could say, hey, I can step up here and knock one out and maybe surprise a few people. But he's definitely good enough.
How quick's he going to go in Doha? I mean, I asked Rowan and I said is sub 21 on the cards, and he's like, I don't want to make a prediction on that, but all indications is that he wants to swim quicker. They feel like everything's moving in the right direction there.
Yeah, from everything, again, like you take it back to consistency in training, focus, and where he's at, and he's done better work than he did in the lead up to the World Championships, where he went 21 flat. He was only a few hundredths off getting under that mark, we're talking 6 months ago. So it's like, if he's in a position where he's improved again and his training has been more consistent, you would have to think that he's going under 21. And that's where I'm expecting it to be. I wouldn't be surprised with a world record swim. I really wouldn't. I'm okay to say that. He doesn't want to hear it maybe because he's focused on the details of how to do it. But I'm like, look, all indications are that this could be a world record swim. The stress is going to be very minimal. It's not going to be a big time race like it is in Paris, even though, all eyes will be on it because it's Cam and there's going to be some competitors there for sure. Ben Proud's going to be there, I believe. So it's not going to be handed to him. But in terms of the idea of him being able to go under 21, yes, I think it's more than likely that that's going to happen. Yeah.
His story, which I think it was night 7 or 8 in Fukuoka, was like the race and how that all panned out and the lead up was fantastic. But his story is, I reckon it's the best story in that swim team, given what he's gone through over the last few years. Like, we saw him at Oz Champs in April and he was just massive. And we were like, whoa, Cam McEvoy's packed it on. And then you sort of learn more about that story of, giving it up and coming back and just training for the sake of it and doing some rock climbing and then coming back and his mate being like, yeah, jump in the pool and see how you go. And he's swimming fast and he's like, why am I swimming fast? And then getting all nerdy and scientific with it all. Like, it is absolute ripper of a story. So happy for him in Fukuoka. And yeah, shout out to, Tim up there and what they're doing up north. And he could be a superstar. And but again, Brett, like, how many Aussies know that Cam McEvoy is a dead set chance of being Australia's first 50-meter gold medalist at the games? Maybe not. Like, and that's our job we're not trying to put pressure on Cam. Like, he trusts the work. He's going to do that so many times in training that he gets on those blocks in Paris and says, I'm ready. I can guarantee you that. So let's make a big deal of it and get people pumped and everyone watching that race.
For sure. Look, I think if we're talking about 10 guys with the possibility of winning this thing, that would be, that would be putting too much pressure on Cam. But Cam's in a very elite class of about 3 people that could actually win in Paris. About 3, that's it. The rest are going to make up the numbers. Happy to be there, great swim. There's only 3 that can really contend, as far as I can see. Ben Proud's certainly one of them, and Ben can win, but on any given day. But, we're not talking about a great number of people. So to talk about Cam as potentially being a gold medalist here, it's not out of the question. Like, he's in that 3 guys that can do it. He's proven, and he's putting in the work. And look, I agree with you. Physically, he's changed himself. Like, when I went and saw him train, he had a butt. Like, he looked like a track athlete. It was like, he was strong and powerful. He looked like a racehorse. I was like, damn, Cam, what the hell, man? Like, he went from like a little school kid who looked like a 5,000-meter runner, to like this jack, racehorse. And he put the work in for that. And he did the specific work, right? He wanted his butt to get bigger because he wanted to be big and strong and powerful so he could get off that block. Like, he thought about all these details of what he needed and how he needed to apply that. And he's completely changed his physiology, his genetic makeup. He just looked completely different, and he's applying that to speed, and he's getting the things that he needed to swim as fast as possible, right? And it's really, really incredible to see what we can do with sprinting. That's the exciting thing for me, is like, it's not just about swimming fast. This man changed his biology, to look completely different, to perform on a completely different scale. So there's so much to learn here from Cam. It's really cool.
On a lighthearted note, as someone who was shredded back in the day yourself, Brett, is there much talk amongst the boys in?
Look at these bad boys. Hey,
mate, you got your shirt on. Is there much talk amongst the boys, the sprinters? Who's looking the best? Who's looking fit? I don't know. As you say, Cam looks like a racehorse.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Ben Proud has been talked about for a few years, just how jacked he is, and I think that's where sprinting is going. And I think the women are still behind in this. Is that a fast female can still swim a good 50, 100, 200. Like you could put Sarah Sostrom, let's say, in a 50 or 100 or 200, and she's going to be super competitive on the world stage. I don't think that's not the case on the men's side. Men have evolved into this 50 freestyle is now a race of big, powerful units. You can't be skinny and lean, and it's just that we're not going that fast by looking like a 5,000-meter runner anymore. So like you've got these different classes of sprinters now. You got these 50 guys, you got your Flow Manadus, these big, tall, jack units swimming speed, and then you've got kind of your 100, 200 mix guys that can swim 100, 200, maybe specialize more on the 100, but I think that's where swimming is going to go. I think there's going to be a separation in those three events, and there primarily hasn't been in the past. I think you're going to see specialists in the 50, specialists in the 100, and specialists in the 200. Within the next 10 years, there's going to be a complete separation in those three events. That's my prediction.
What are you most fascinated about ahead of trials, albeit 4 or 5 months away?
Yeah, I think it's my hope is that they can fill some of those gaps that you talk about. I want them to be a well-rounded, competitive team. It's not good when you see the lack of depth in some of those events. You hope it's like, all right, we hope Sam Short, everything hits for him, because otherwise there's a lack of depth there, right? So it's like you got these phenomenal superstars at the top end, and then there's a massive drop off. So I'm hoping some of that, those 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th type people can move up a little bit more, tighten up the competitiveness of this team. I want it to be a really well-rounded team, because ultimately I don't care if Australia wins or the US wins. And I know people are going to snicker at that or whatever it is, but I want the best racing, right? I don't care if China wins. I want the best racing in Paris. And I think that's what ultimately swimming world is seeing, right? Like I think we're seeing a competitiveness on the world stage. The world has shrunk. Even though people are still not talking as much as we want them to, we're sharing more ideas. We're understanding how people are trained, and we get to see that on a daily basis. So the world is shrinking, and I think that everybody's fast these days. So I think it's going to be a really competitive meet. But at the trials themselves, I hope Cody Simpson makes the team. How about that?
Your boy.
Yeah.
How's he going?
Yeah. Codes. I hope Codes can get on there. That 100 fly. It's pretty competitive event in Australia. You've got a couple of boys swimming fast, right?
Yeah, I think Cody's looking at like 5th ranked, at the moment. Like his PB's got to sort of get deep. He probably would have to improve by 3-4 tenths, I reckon, to sort of sneak in there. Probably not.
Yeah, that 51 flat. That 51 flat's kind of going to be where that number 2 spot in Australia is, I think.
Yeah. Look, I don't know whether there's scope to try and sneak him in as a heat relay swimmer, but yeah, like it'd be a great story for sure. Absolutely brilliant story, which will be followed closely. I know he was a bit crook last year and sort of battled through that a bit up there with Bowley, but mate, again, looking like racehorses, like he's just looks in absolutely cracking shape. So
yeah, he looks great. Yeah, I told him that last time I saw him. I was like, geez, man, look at you. He looks great. He's in a good squad. But yeah, that's a competitive event in Australia, because it's just like jammed up in that top end. You've got, like you said, 5 or 6 guys that could on any given day kind of hit the numbers. But I think ultimately, if you put yourself in that 50-point high range, that's kind of where you can get your guarantee. If you're playing in the 51 low range, you're playing craps, So yeah, you gotta find a way to get into the 50-point range.
Yeah, 100%. And like Maddie Temple late last year in Japan went 56 or 57.
50.6,
yeah. So like that's like top few in Fukuoka there, albeit would he come 5th in Tokyo? So I mean, absolute legend is Maddie Temple, and slight improvements. You never know, right place, right time. It could be a sneaky chance for a medal there. So yeah, looking like that second spot, for the 100 fly. But yeah, like further to your point, the races is what you want to see for sure. Like I looked through that list, even in the women's, 100. Siobhan Jorge, Emma, Molly, and then the 200 will be an absolute belter. with Molly versus Ariane. You know, presumably they both go through. That was a ripper in Fukuoka, and then Summer, like what's she going to cook up at trials there in April or May for Canada? And
Canada, yeah.
What's the
I'd love
chat?
to see Kyle Chalmers go 46, mate. I don't think he's gone 46 yet, has he? He's 47 low a
40
number of times.
47.08 maybe, or 06.
Yeah, he's got to crack in that 46, Kyle. Come on, mate. It's time, buddy. Let's get this thing. He's capable, you know, like he's got speed. He's shown speed. He's obviously got the back end. For some reason he's just peppering that 47 flat. We've got to, you know, you got to make a breakthrough. And a breakthrough for him could be a, you know, 2/10 drop, 3/10 drop. Like he could drop way under. It's not like he's just playing with hundreds here. So I'm hoping Kyle can put one together and bust out, you know. That'd be cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a breakthrough win in Fukuoka as well, his first individual world title, which like meant a lot to him as well. And you speak to the guys after the races too, and that 4x1, they all spoke about that in the lead up of how much they just want to replicate what the boys did in Sydney 20 odd years ago. And like that means so much to all of those fellas. So if they can do that, that'd be great. And then the question is, Big Dressel, is he going to lurk in late doors? Is there any chat around him and what he's doing?
Yeah, there's definitely chatter that he's training well. Yeah, and he's back in the game. He's about to have a kid. I don't know, any time now, you know, the next couple of days for sure. So like that's happening soon. So that's life-changing, right? We all know that. So it's like, how does that affect him? Positively, negatively, neutral? I don't think there's a neutral here. I think it's either going to boost him or it's going to take something out of him. But ultimately, he's back in the game and he's swimming well. He's training well from all accounts. And from what I've seen, his fly looks really good and connected. I think he's still working through some tweaks in his freestyle. So I hope he can figure that out. But again, like he's such a talent, mate. And it's good to see him back. Good to see him happy and racing. I want to see him now happy and winning again, you know? So that'd be cool. But imagine a showdown if he was back to his form and Kyle's back, you know, at his best at another Olympic showdown like we had in Tokyo. How cool would that be?
Popovich gonna come back into the mix. I mean, all the talk there was that he wasn't as training as hard and had taken things a little lighter last year to finish school and just get the whole long picture stuff, big picture stuff sorted.
Yeah.
Like he could just come back and go high 46s again and just rock the world. So that would be.
He could, man. He could, and I want him to. I would love that. Imagine if we had. I mean, there's so many guys. There's Jack Alexi from the US. He's legit. I've seen him train. I mean, phenomenal. You got Panzeal. You know, he's swimming so quick. So it's like they could ultimately, legitimately be 5 or 6 guys under 47. You know, like they're good enough to do it. Now, can they all do it at the same time? That was something of interest. But wow, wouldn't that be remarkable if we get 5 or 6 guys popping under 47 all at the same, hitting full steam? And that would again bring the 100 freestyle back to the most exciting race at the Olympics. That'd be super cool.
100%. Yeah, and the women's will be absolute blockbuster stuff too. I'm really fascinated to see how Bowley's managing Emma, and we all know that they were she was never going to be at her best at Fukuoka and had taken some time off after Tokyo. So all that timing, right? Would love to see her in the mix, and she will be. She's an absolute pro, and one last throw of the dice really for her. So, but yeah, I mean, you caught up with a few athletes, coaches when you were out here. Good trip, worthwhile. Pick up some stuff.
Yeah, loved it. Yeah, loved it. It was kind of in the lead up to summer, and I know, you know, a lot of the best work the Aussies do is in the summer because they're swimming long course. It's outdoors mostly, and the sun's out, and it's just a good vibe in Australia during this period. So I'm expecting, actually, even though it might be a weaker team, I'm still expecting some fast swims out of the Aussies because of that fact, right? Like it's summertime. It's perfect to go and race some long course for them. So I think there'll be some good swimming here from the Aussies, hopefully. And I don't know how much stock we can put into that, but at the same time, I think the trials are just going to be cutthroat, super competitive. Again, I think those top two spots I mean, each event is deep enough to be like, wow, who's going? It could be a toss of the coin here. You know, there's no guarantees necessarily. Like you wouldn't even say that there's any. You couldn't put a guarantee on anyone in the women's 100 freestyle in Australia. There's no guaranteed winner. They're that deep, you know.
No, there's not. I mean, yeah, and one who probably won't be there now is Maddie Wilson, who's pregnant. It was announced with Matt Short yesterday that they're having a baby. So I'm presuming she ain't swimming. So yeah, great story there. But it's absolutely crackerjack, that women's 100 free for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's gonna be a great race. I can't wait for that. So yeah, be interesting. Molly O'Callahan's definitely one of those that Dean keeps under the radar and does a good job managing her. But from all accounts, she's such a talent and such a racer. So yeah, she's going to be deadly when it comes time again. So yeah, pretty cool. I'll catch up with Dean when I'm there and hopefully pick his brain a little bit. I'm sure he's not going to give me much, but maybe I'll just follow him around like he follows other people around, do a little spying on Dean, you know. So see what happens.
Well, mate, I can tell you from the broadcast side in Fukuoka, it was like find Dean cam. Like producers are like, where's Dean? Whenever he's got someone in a race, it's like, and now he's got really good at trying to hide. Like he'll find a little quiet place where he knows the cameras aren't going to be. Or I'm not sure whether will there be a big crowd in Doha. I would have no idea. But
I actually don't know about the crowd. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing for crowd, but I got a VIP access, so I'm going to be wandering the halls, and I'll track him down wherever he is. I'll put a little spy cam on him if I can. So that'd be cool. But all right, mate. Well, listen, it's been cool. It's been good to catch up. And if there's any breaking news, you know, shoot it our way. We can share that. You know, we'll do some shared media. I'll do the same over there in Doha. If anything crosses me, I'll pass it to you. All right.
Yeah, beauty. Thanks for the time. And big year ahead. Fire up.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Appreciate it, Tom. Take care, mate.